wage laborers or wage slavery, as they used to call it, we would lose the freedoms that made America great.
If you, say, were in such conditions of duress, you know, that you just couldn't survive except by being a slave, you might sign a contract that says, okay, I'll be your slave. That's by your own free will. I mean, are we going to take that seriously? I mean, you know, under some pathological assumptions, I suppose.
We live in an economy which takes 80% of each new generation and educates that 80% to obey orders and to endure boredom, and stifles their creativity, and stifles their capacities, and curtails them. They are systematically crushed by a system which does what? Which fills slots. And 80% of the slots need people who just do rote, tedious, repetitive labor, at least at work, and therefore are acclimated to doing that.
Most of my jobs I've never really liked. I've never said, this is great, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this.
Yeah, there was a job I really, really despised, but the money was really good.
I mean, it wasn't the job that I wanted, you know, and my daily life and my work experience was just not making me happy.
I mean, you could say, you know what, this is a terrible job, I don't want to do it. It's a free market, you have total choice to not show up under these terrible conditions. At the same time, if you don't, little problem here, you're not going to eat, and your family isn't going to eat. And that's why people do it.
Yeah, I really hated that job.
I think many of us nowadays feel the way Charlie Chaplin role modeled long ago, like cogs in wheels, that we're stuck in the machinery of our economy, that we have very little choice. We have to work a 9-to-5 job and watch a little TV and go to bed and do it all over again.
I want to have a more rewarding experience, I guess, with life, and based not just to make money and to say, oh, this year I made 10,000 more than last year.
I think that this whole idea of a middle class in this country is ridiculous. There is no middle class. There's no such thing as that. You know, they're the working poor too, because their whole lifestyle is financed to death. They have the big, beautiful house, the 2 lovely cars. They're putting their kids through college. But if they get fired from their job, all of that stuff is over.
I've always been kind of a cynical person, so I guess to me, doing jobs to just support yourself is just pretty much what life is about.
It's that we do the work we do so often simply for the money. Now, since we're all chasing this money around, it utterly patterns our society.
So hardly realizing it, they come into their purchasing stage and are off on a wild, non-stop ride. It's a happy-go-spending world, reflected in the windows of the suburban shopping centers where they go to buy.
I claim there's enough work in the world for everybody, forever. But if you start to have to pay for it with a national money that's scarce, that's making it work into a job, that is going to be another question, because someone has to borrow that money in order to pay you.
As we get rid of more and more and more jobs, we may have to get to a point where we redefine the meaning of work. And you're going to have to find other ways for people to support themselves.
Work, there's an infinity of things we can do. We can make every city, every garden, every house a paradise. There's an infinity amount of things to be done to reach there. Don't expect to be paid for it in national money. Don't get that idea. So we have to find another way, what people can do in a post-industrial age.
One of the things about local currency, I think that a lot of people are embracing it because they're starting to understand more about our federal economic system. Federal Reserve notes don't necessarily serve the best interest of local communities. And local currency can help tip the scales back into that mindset.
For some people, if they have river hours and they don't have federal money, we felt like, well, that's fine, we will take them. And it works for us because we have employees here who are willing to be paid in river hours. My name is Mark England, and I'm a registered nurse, and I'm the Director of Clinical Services here at La Clinica. We're not a free clinic, we expect payment, but we also work with people because we understand that people also need to buy food and shelter and other things to keep themselves alive as well.
We don't seek to replace federal money in our communities at all. We are hoping to facilitate more exchange beyond what's possible with federal dollars. It's another kind of faith and another kind of currency, and it's faith in your neighbors, it's faith in local business, it's faith in your region and what it can offer you, and that there is true wealth there to be had.
Not many of us remember that this country was built on decentralized issue of currency. By and large, what it meant was that the various regions of the United States could develop in a decentralized way according to the resources and the skills that they had in that region. And that's what created the great diversity and economic wealth of this country.
Complementary currency, in my definition, is an agreement in a community to use something, just about anything that they can agree on, as a medium of exchange. That's other than national conventional money. The first thing that one has to understand about complementary currencies is that there are as many different rules as you can want to invent. In national money, there's only one. Okay, that's basically the same worldwide. In complementary currencies, different communities agree on different rules. It is complementary because they do not replace national money.
A local currency is something that is issued at the time that it's backed by goods and services in our community. And when people advertise in the River Hours Trade Directory, they actually sign a commitment that says that they are backing in whole or in part that currency with their goods or services that they're offering, and that they're also agreeing to accept in whole or part some local currency. So when you get River Hours, it's backed by people in your community, and that's tangible.
Local currency is a way of encouraging people, inducing people to spend locally. And it's also a way to help people to support one another in the local economy when they maybe do not have any money.
It's been probably a third to half of my income. Whether it was working for people or just the advertising in the directory and getting my name out, or word of mouth has been huge.
Their offerings, their inventory, the money often hits their cash register and then heads straight out of town to the central office in Ohio or wherever. River Hours is hopelessly and happily bound to our community. That value always remains here, and I think people understand that.
Alan Watts in the 50s wrote a critique of the Depression where he said, look, the economy went flat because everybody found there was no money. There's plenty of work needed doing, plenty of people wanted work, plenty of goods in the stores, but nobody could afford them, nobody could pay for them because we had no money. And he said this was like going to build a building. And you've got the materials, you've got the tools, you've got the skills, you've got the drawings, you've got the planning permission, you've got the weather, you've got the will. No inches. Damn. We had a bunch of inches, but then big project on the other side of town, they're using all the inches. We don't have any inches because all the inches went over there. I guess we're out of work. Well, that's exactly what we do with money.
That's my clearest realization, is that there is
plenty of work that needs to be done in this valley. And there are all kinds of people who need work to make ends meet. They need work. They could contribute to the community. There's all kinds of things to do. So we have the work that needs to be done. We have the workers. What is it that's missing? You know, pieces of paper that say, I'll do this for, you know, in exchange for other goods.
People are short of and hungry for a tangible way to just plug into a sense of community. And that feeling, that attitude, I believe is accomplished transactionally through using this currency system.
Once they get the concept that, you know, we can spend the money here and it stays here and it helps out our school system and our children and our future and everything, people really get a hold of it again. And the river hours and all that, that's all stuff that need to keep working hard at.
I think it's exciting. I think River Hours isn't going anywhere. You know, I think it's only going to continue to bring people together and to get people talking. I'd like to say right now that it's a huge economic impact, but that's not the biggest impact of River Hours at this point. The biggest impact is people starting to shift into recognizing and realizing that local communities can become more self-sufficient in every way.
And the soil here is interesting because now, you know, this is all dune stuff, but now we've got this humus building up, holding the sand together. You can still see the sand grains in there. But, so these dunes have been established for a while. So they're totally covered in vegetation. Everything has reached a certain amount of stability. All of these plants combined are sharing the rhizosphere with each other. Their roots are intertwined. And they're contributing different things. These plants root associate either with, probably here it's a fungus that can actually take nitrogen out of the atmosphere and fix it on their roots. Can actually fix it so that the pine tree can get it. The pine tree in exchange will, through photosynthesis, create sugars and send it down and feed that to the fungus. So there's this interaction going on all the time that is mutually beneficial.
What we're doing is really reinventing the exchange process. We need to mediate exchanges in a different way than we've done before. The debt money system creates money on the basis of interest-bearing debt. It's not debt itself that is at fault. It's the interest component that's attached to the debt. And the interest component does not get created when banks create money on the basis of collateral.
Some people are really Luddite about this, and they think, well, we should be back to gold and silver, and that's a metal, precious metal that doesn't change with time. That's all nonsense in my view, just nonsense. And a lot of earnest, good people devote their lives to trying to prove that somehow the world is going to hell because we have these symbolic money rather than the real thing. I would say don't waste your brain cells on that subject. It doesn't lead anywhere, and it's actually quite reactionary if you think about it.
We have to start thinking about money as an information medium, not as a substantial thing. It has been merely an information medium for a couple of hundred years in most respects. But nonetheless, we've stuck ourselves with the idea that there's only so much money. That's the core of its reality concept. That all there is so many trillion dollars or euros or yen, and what we're doing is juggling them. Comes from you, goes to me, goes to him, goes to her. It's to and fro, and we're juggling with a real thing. Therefore, we are always going to have shortages.
How can we mediate our exchanges without creating a pervasive sense of scarcity? Are paper currencies like river hours really the best way to solve this problem? Or are there other, more effective approaches?
River hours